listeners. You're listening to the Kobo Writing Life podcast, where we bring you insights and inspiration for growing your self-publishing business. We're your hosts. I'm Rachel, author engagement manager for Kobo Writing Life.
And I'm Tara, director of Kobo Writing Life.
On today's episode, we spoke with New York Times and USA Today bestselling author Carrie Ann Ryan. Carrie Ann is the author of over 150 contemporary and paranormal romances where the characters yearn, break your hearts, and make you swoon. If there's a family of 6 brothers who need a happily ever after, she's your author.
I love chatting with Carrie Ann always. And in this episode, we spoke about her 158 now, I think, book career and how her writing has evolved. She uses dictation to write, and she talked to us about the process there a little bit, how she has a typist. I haven't heard of an author with a typist in probably several years. She also talks about writing long, interconnected series and how she plots them and knows where her characters are going and what she's doing. And then we dive into finding balance with writing when life can be a little bit overwhelming and how she still maintains joy in writing. She definitely is an author who you can feel loves to write and loves what she's doing. So we hope that you enjoy. Hi, Carrie Ann. Thank you for joining us on the Kobo Writing Life podcast. We're so happy to have you here today.
Thanks for having me.
So I wonder if you could start off by telling our listeners a little bit about yourself and how did you get into writing?
So, hi, I'm Carrie Ann Ryan, and I write contemporary and paranormal romance. Really contemporary romance at this point. It's been a while since I've released paranormal, so new readers don't actually realize that I used to write like 50 of those. So I have over 150 romances out there, and I have no idea how I got to this point, but it just keeps going. This is my 15th year doing this. So I have a couple of celebrations planned at the end of the year that I'm excited for. And I started writing because I needed a break after grad school. I went to grad school for chemistry, math, and physics, and that exhausted me. And my late husband was also taking the same courses, and I just needed a break. And since I finished a little bit before him, I decided to teach on the side and just read romance and play with writing to see if it worked. And I fell into it and loved it, and I haven't looked back 15 years later.
And with 150 books published, which congratulations, because that is wild. Obviously, you were incredibly prolific. And I'm really curious what a typical writing day or week looks like for you and how it's kind of evolved throughout your career.
So I used to write on weekends and then evenings after classes or after teaching. And it was sort of just when I could fill it in. And I was still writing a lot, but that was also like when you first start writing and you have no fear. And you can just keep going. You don't care about the health of your hands or your wrists, and you just keep writing. Now, my typical day, I write during the week. I don't write on weekends. I haven't written on weekends since the year my husband passed. We both made a promise to each other that we were going to travel more. So, and because between grad school and his job and my job, like we were like, wow, this is 7 days a week. And this is not great. And we were in our early 30s, and it was time for us to go travel. So I don't write on weekends. And that's the promise I made to him in 2017, and I haven't since. And I will check emails because the emails are always there, but I don't write. So I try to dictate my books to save my hands. And I do that in the mornings. That way in the afternoons, it's all about edits and admin work and all of the podcasts or conference calls or things that I've been putting together in my planner over here that just gets color-coded and adds up over time. But yeah, so it's really writing in the mornings and trying to get out like maybe a chapter a day, which is like 3,000 words. It's deadline week this week, so I'm at 2 chapters. Because no matter what I do, I schedule it perfectly. I always end up adding more chapters to my outline. So I end up doing like 2 chapters a day during deadline week. But it's fine. I'm totally not stressed. It's great. We're great.
Well, not to add to any feelings of stress, but I wonder if you could tell us what are your tips for like staying productive and like avoiding burnout, because it can be so easy, especially you've mentioned you're on deadline right now, and I hope you're not feeling anywhere near burnout. But do you have any tips for people that might be helpful?
So I'm always stressed about like meeting my deadline, but I'm going to knock on wood as I say this, but I've never missed one. I think that's the grad school part of me and the science part of me. And it's like, well, it's analytical. It's my job. I have to figure it out, which yells at the creative part of me that it's like, well, these characters just don't write themselves. And so I think the best thing I could say is the reason that I can do this is that I know that like this last weekend, I knew I was going to have a lot to do this week. And I still didn't sit down write. I was like, I need this break. I need to work on my garden. I need to hang out with my parents because they were just out of town and I was out of town. And so I wanted to just hang out with them and watch a basketball game and work on their garden. Like I needed to replenish the well, even though I knew I would have a lot of words to write this week. And so that's the best thing I can tell to any author who's in it for the past 6 months or in it for 10 years is learn to when to take breaks. I remember when I first started writing, people would say you have to write every day, you're going to lose it. And that could be some people, but that is not me. I sometimes only write 3 to 4 days a week because I need to have an admin day to catch up on everything that comes with the business of having 150 books on more than one platform. And it just adds up over time. So taking breaks and making sure that I am enjoying what I'm doing, because finding the joy in that takes time. And my hardest part of the day is sitting down and starting. And once I'm like in the middle of it, I'm fine and I can keep going for a few hours. But it's starting and getting distracted by all the little things. So it's turning off the internet. It's getting on a Zoom with my friend where we both are holding each other accountable. It's blocking websites. It's focusing for that little bit. And then I can find the joy in it.
So I'm just curious, when you sit down to write, not every day, but the days that you are assigning your writing days, are you driven by time? Like, are you like 9 to 5, I'm sitting here, or is it, I'm going to do this chapter or hitting a word count? Like, what's your usual goal in each writing session? Or is it totally dependent on what you're writing?
So because, I work from home, I've had to make an office in which this is where the work gets done, at least the writing. The admin work can get done in the living room or upstairs or even on my Peloton. But I don't work in my bedroom because suddenly that's a 20-hour day by accident. It's fine. I'll just bring my laptop in here and do something. But that can't happen. But on my couch while working, that's one thing, right? But my typical day of focusing is I want to get the word count in. And the word count is usually a chapter. And that usually will take me the morning because while I can dictate, and maybe that takes me 30 minutes to dictate a chapter, right? That doesn't mean the chapter is anyway done. Then, because I need to clean up that chapter because there's no way that dictation worked perfectly. And I need to add to that chapter, and that's where the hands come in. And so that does take all the morning. And it's focusing to get out those words and pausing and like moving my cats or dealing with the doorbell or little things like that. Even with focus modes on, there's still things coming at you. So my goal is to write that 1 chapter or 2 chapters as this week is coming, and then focus on everything else.
And I'm curious how bringing in dictation changed how you write, if at all. Was there a learning curve? Do you have any tips for anybody trying to start dictation? Because like Tara and I have talked about this before, and I do not believe I have the brain that is able to dictate. Like I struggle with a voice note and keeping it on task. So I'm really curious how your dictation journey went.
So I'm a plotter, if that helps. I outline, and I seriously still outline like I'm in high school geography with your football coach teaching you and like teaching you how to outline from a chapter. Like that's how I learned to outline, and that's how I still outline books. So like I know like the chapter that's coming up, I know like the key points that needs to happen. And so I'm looking at that as I'm writing, and I'm looking at the spreadsheet of the character names because names elude me as I'm speaking, not typing, but speaking. And when I first started dictating almost full time in 2018. And it was because I have a couple degenerative diseases. And so my hands go numb. I'm in a lot of pain, and I needed to avoid surgery multiple times. And so I was like, I need to just learn how to do this. And so I opened up a book that was already done, and I had to rewire my brain. And so I spoke aloud with the punctuation, the book that was already done. So that way I knew how my cadence was, how I was working. And it's still, my cadence and how I speak is different than how I dictate, and it's different than how I hand type. And so going over the dictation transcription and me adding in, which I'm lucky that I'm able to still use my hands to be able to do that, that's what changes my voice back to the blend that I am now. So yeah, it is a difference. And so I would say, the best way to start it is find the cheapest way to do it, because it's going to take you time. So like I have a Mac. So inside my Mac, there is a dictation software. And that is what I used for the first like 10 books of this. And it was slow and painstaking, but I learned how to speak the punctuation. And I think that is 100% better than a lot of the new programs out there that uses AI. in order to see your pauses, especially like if you are doing voice notes or dictation into your phone. Like the pauses they've changed in the last few updates. And so the way you dictate has to change.
I'd imagine it's the cleanup that is the biggest, like with the AI stuff. Like it probably is helpful, but it's not quite there yet, where you'd have to spend then twice as long going back over like, oh yeah, if I could have just said comma.
Yeah. And I'm very anti-generative AI. And so I'm doing my best not to use any. So I have a typist. Yeah. So I have a typist and we work together. And there's a couple apps that you can use human typists as well. They're expensive, but you're paying a human, so they need a livable wage. So I have a typist and we work together, and I give him it's a him. I give him all of my voice notes and he sends them back, and they're not perfect because my pausing is in there as well. So there's, sometimes, you say words backwards, things like that. And so I have to go in and fix it, or like, hey, I didn't describe the entire building, this entire chapter. Maybe I should add that. Things like that. So cleaning it up does take time. So in the end, I used to be a very fast typist. And if you include the 2 to 3 extra read-throughs I need to do, I'm pretty much at the same speed as before, which I dictate to save my body versus time.
I'm just curious, and maybe this is like a silly question, but we're going to be talking about One Quick Obsession, who had the protagonists Hudson and Scarlett. Does Hudson get a deeper voice when you're dictating?
Yes, and it's embarrassing. So I'm an audiobook listener, and so I do the voices, and they're not well. There's a reason why I'm not a narrator, and my producer is Emma Wilder, who is one of my favorite narrators, who narrates many of my books, and she has listened to some of my things. She's like, you can't be that bad. I'm like, no. Here is what I sound like. She's like, oh, well, you tried. Like at least you're writing. I'm like, thanks. And so, so I do the voices. And I try not to, especially because it's like begin quote, blah, 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 comma, end quote, he said, period, new line. And to the point that if I do a voice note, I say the punctuation, even though they're hearing my voice. So it's embarrassing, but commas are pauses in my thinking as well now.
Well, as we've mentioned several times, you do have quite the backlist. And I think it's fair to say that a lot of authors do aspire to have such a substantial backlist and a catalog of books. And I'm curious if you have any advice for setting realistic goals when it comes to producing such a large catalog.
It took time. I'm at 15 years. So it took time. And when we were quarantined for so long, a lot of people couldn't write. Which understandable, 100%. I sort of wish my brain could have done that. Instead, I was so fearful and so stressed, and I needed to have an outlet of something. I wrote 10 books that year. I don't say do that. That was but like I couldn't leave the house. I couldn't sleep. And so I wrote a lot. And so it kind of bumped up the numbers a bit. But I write what I like to read. And I like to write series. And so those sort of blend into each other. And it just adds up over time. And I've written in a couple of different genres. And sometimes if I can't write, like my brain doesn't want to do one genre anymore, I lean into another. And it just takes time and it takes focus. And a lot of, when I do panels and stuff, a lot of my friends who introduce me, they're like, she's the most consistent author that I know. And so consistent is also like one of my top 10 traits. And so it's my job. Writing is my job. I love what I do. I love reading romance and I love writing it. And I just got lucky that I can do it all. And I am slowing down, by the way. Like I'm not doing that many books a year. So don't worry. I'm not going to hit 200 and reach Nora Roberts anytime soon.
But you've had enormous success with self-publishing, and it has to be because of this consistency. Readers like reliability when it comes to these releases. But I'm wondering if you can think back around over these past 10 years, what do you think has been the biggest change or challenge in your career?
See, I don't know. I mean, I think the concept of consistency has changed. So, and not what I do, but what everything comes around. So when I first started indie publishing, Kobo didn't have an indie publisher, right? So my career's older than KWL, but I love you guys. So. And I've been with you guys since the beginning. And the biggest change is there's a lot more noise out there. There's a lot more things to do. There's a lot of, I have to do special editions. I have to do this. I have to be in every library. I have to be in every language. I have to go to every signing. I have to make sure that I'm just on one place so that way I can get people to notice me. I have, and there's just so many things telling me what to do. And I started in a different place than every other new author that's going to be coming in. So my experiences aren't going to translate well to everyone else. So I started when there weren't as many indie authors out there and you could be discovered, but that doesn't mean that is consistent, right? So a lot of authors that started with me are no longer writing. And it's because you have to be able to have readers find you and you have to have readers want to stay with you. And that is always the scariest part. Every time that I sit down and write a book and plot it, I'm worried that they're not going to want to stick with me, even though I'm writing what I love. And I hope I'm writing what my readers love, but I want to challenge myself at the same time. So 150 plus books, challenging myself with a different plot, but something that my readers will find familiar is the hardest part at this point.
What you're saying there about writing about what you love or writing what you love is probably key as to why you're sticking around, because I'm sure at the beginning people had books but maybe couldn't keep up with the pace or just didn't enjoy it as much. But it sounds like you've never lost the joy of writing, which is really awesome.
Which I'm always afraid that it will, but I think the fact that I still love reading it, that helps. And this past year, my sister, who was a reader, but like in nonfiction and things. And I think if I hadn't been a romance author, she would have found romance way before this. But she started reading romance and now she reads more than I do. And she goes to my book room and like looks to see what books that I have from different authors. We're on the family share plan for Kindle and for Kobo, actually, because she can look at both accounts. And so she can see what books I have. And so then she can get them and things like that. And so her new joy for this, and it's like, oh, I found this new author. And maybe the author I've read before because they're not new to me because they've been around for 15 years. But a lot of times they're new to me too. So it's her joy is bringing me new interest in it. And so therefore, like with the series that comes out, that started this year, like book 2 comes out next month. There we go. Like the Ashford Creek series, I had so much fun plotting it because I was sitting there talking with my sister about romance and she'd never wanted to do this before. She never wanted to read. She didn't know what a trope was. And now my whole family knows what tropes are. And they come with me to book signings as my team. And it's just, that's what helps, is really just finding that joy.
Has your sister made her way through your 150 title backlist yet?
No. And we both said she's not allowed to.
Okay. That was going to be my next question if you said no.
Yeah, no. And my dad picked up my first book when I first published it. He's like, I can hear your voice, so we're not going to do this. Like he's like, I tried. I'm like, please don't. Like they read my newsletters, which I always forget. And like, I'll put like little anecdotes for the family. And mom's like, I can't believe you told them. It's like, oh, I forgot you read these things. But yeah, no, so she won't read me, but they do know my books because my sisters and my mom are so excited at signings to like say, hey, this is this book. It's about these tropes and it's these characters. And this book comes out next month. And like that, they're really excited. And I'm taking my dad to his first signing this year too.
That's so sweet. And it's awesome that you have now found another person to just like discuss the genre with. And I'm sure having more of those conversations not only helps you find the joy or retain the joy, but also helps you like bounce new ideas off of a new fan to the genre, which has got to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, like I go over and we make dinner together. The reason that I moved here is to be with my family. So this is very helpful, right? And so I go over and make dinner like once a week with them. And we're sitting there and the kitchen is loud and everything. And my sister's like, okay, so what's the next book? And I'm telling them what I'm writing or what I'm trying to work in my head for the next plot. And it's just so weird to me now that they understand what all of these things mean. And my dad's like, wait, is this the series that does this? Like he remembers.
That's so nice. My mom still tells people that I am a writer and I am not. And I have to try and explain my job and they don't know. That is nice.
And they have always been proud of me, even if they didn't understand what I was doing. Like my dad in his old job met a few very influential political people and they would ask what their kids do. And my dad's like, let me tell you about my eldest daughter. And I was like, please don't show them the covers right away, Dad.
Well, speaking of covers and books, tell us about your latest release, One Quick Obsession.
So One Quick Obsession is the 4th book in the Cage family series. And I wanted to write a series that was small town meet big city, which is what I like to read. And there's not really a lot of that, honestly. Usually it's one or the other. And I wanted to mix it so that way the small town people can visit somewhere. And so the Cage family series is a secret family series. So the patriarch of the family, he had 7 sons because he was busy in his life. He had 7 sons and he's very stern, very mean. And at the will reading, this other family of daughters and 1 son walk in and they're like, "Are you in the wrong room?" They're like, "No, this is for our dad's will." And you realize that he had an entire 12 kids instead of just the 7. And so the series is them forced to be family and friends. And so the 4th book of the series is One Quick Obsession, and it's an enemies to lovers who hurt you romance, which is so much fun to write. I'm writing right now like a golden retriever happy book, which is the exact opposite of the book that just came out. But Hudson is not a golden retriever. He's more a German shepherd, very growly, very not nice, but kind. And Scarlett is amazing. She is so much stronger than I could ever be. And she needs help and will never say that she needs help. And so he sort of forces the help on her, but doesn't want to give help either. Like it's forced proximity. And I enjoy it so much because even while I'm saying all these tropes, the emotion behind it is what broke me while writing it, because there are a lot of content warnings on this book.
Well, kind of to that point, like Hudson and Scarlett both have quite heavy backstories and are bringing a lot of that to the book. And I'm curious how you balance writing that tough character experience within a romance.
That's what I like reading. Because sometimes I don't feel okay. And I've been through, I am a widow and I tend to write widows and loss because I need to, I go to therapy, but it's also my therapy to write it and try to figure out the way, not out of it, but through it. And so I enjoy writing complex characters that are damaged, but not cruel, because we all walk through life a little hurt, a little bruised, especially right now. Things aren't easy. And I know that a lot of people read to escape, and I read to escape, but I also need to see that there is a little bit of light at the end of that tunnel. And so that's how I try to balance it. So there's a little bit of humor because I'm sarcastic, and that comes through all of my books. But and there's a lot of heat, but the emotion is where I'm trying to really dig in.
And you mentioned this. I thought it was only 11 Cage family members, but you just said 12. I'm like, I miscounted them.
It's why there's a family tree. And at the beginning of the book, there's a list.
There is. I found that very helpful to refer to. But I wanted to ask, actually, like, how do you keep track of all of the characters, the relationships? Because there's 12, but there's also spouses. And then there's the different timelines, but you also write across different interconnected series as well. So do you have any tips for writers out there who are trying to keep track? And I'm imagining that, Pepe Silvio murder board with the pins and everything. Like, is that something that every writer actually has?
So if I turn my computer this way, I actually have a whiteboard of the Montgomerys, because that's what I'm writing right now. And I have the main Montgomery sets that I'm writing and who they're connected to and what their jobs are, just so I can look at, the writing, it really helped. But I have a spreadsheet for each series that I write before I write the books. So it has character names, what they look like, where we've met them, what they do for a living, any emotional things that are important, certain plot aspects I need to think of later, their birthday, their sign, things like that. Just things that will help me later, any tattoos or piercings and, special things that are helpful for writing it. And so I know... So the Cage family will be 10 books because 2 of them have already married into the Montgomerys, right? And so don't worry, it's only 10. But so I would say for any new author or any author who has never plotted before, you don't need to plot an outline in order to prepare yourself better for the future. So I would at least have someone, if you can't do it, write it's called a book Bible. But I use Microsoft OneNote, in which I have all of my series, all of them, and then it's separated by series, book, and then in each book file, there is images, there are outlines, there's blurbs, there's research, because I needed to do research on what hotel management was and things like that. And so the way that I can remember who they are is through that spreadsheet. And then I put it on my website. I have a full family tree that is interconnected with, so like the Montgomerys and the Cages are connected, so you can jump between them. And my editors, I give them the spreadsheet each time, especially because with dictation, I mess up names sometimes. Because in my head, I think I'm saying one thing and it's not. And so we have to make sure that we get that correct. But yeah, so it's pretty much making sure you are settled down before you even write. And then as I'm writing and I'm coming up with side characters, I add them quickly to the spreadsheet.
I was going to say, your editors must love how organized you are.
Sometimes they're like, you could have just made a tiny family. And I've written small families before. I've written many, many 3-book series, but they're all connected. So every single contemporary book I've ever written is connected. And that's why I have a reading order page on my website going, you do not need to, you can start at a book 1 of every single series and not be lost, because it's very standalone, like on purpose. It's just fun to see the Easter eggs. Or like you finish the series of where do I go next? Don't worry, I'll get you there.
Do you think there is a reader expectation that every, I guess, main character, like every family member will eventually get their own book, and / has there ever been somebody where you're like, oh, I don't want to write that story? Like, is there any character that if you have 11 or 12 siblings, you're not as interested in, I don't know, like second, third cousin Joe,
Yeah. So the way that I've plotted these certain series, I know I want to write who I'm writing. But like for the Ashford Creek series, it's, 5 siblings and then not siblings. So it's like friends. So the whole series isn't just, it's the town, right? So it's not just siblings. And I'm not going to write every character that I've introduced. There are a couple in which, and people know me as well. They're like, oh, so you're just going to end them, right? I'm like, or maybe you don't see maybe they just get married off to the side, or maybe they don't get married. Like, cause maybe that's a very reasonable choice, And so just because I've written the character on the side doesn't mean they're going to get an HEA. But once they have that HEA, I'm not going to do anything to them. They're safe. So don't worry. But so there are some side characters that won't get books. And like the Montgomerys, there are 50 cousins in that generation. I'm not writing all of them. I'm not. But I know how long the Montgomery Ink Legacy series is going to be, and that it's not going to be 50. It's going to end in like a year or so. And then I'm going to move on to another Montgomery, so I don't scare you with book 40, right? There'll be a nice book 1 for people that don't need to read any other book. But some of the characters are just going to end up having HEAs off to the side, or I may kill them off, or send them to Ireland and say, you go have fun there and then don't come home. Yeah, but it just really depends on what I'm in the mood for. But like the characters that I've plotted, I know I want to write.
And when you're plotting out a series like this, where there are so many characters, they are so interconnected, how do you know when to end the series?
I have a lot of data in terms of what my readers like, and a lot of which differs than what a lot of my friends do. So a lot of my friends are like 4-book series, 5-book series. That's it. I can't, like at book 6, it's done. And for me, I know a lot of my readers like a little bit longer, a little bit drawn out. And so that's why I have a mix, right? And so I have a mix of 3 books, 4 books, 6 books, a 10-book series. But the 10-book series is split up into mini series, sort of, right? So it's not like you're not meeting all 10 siblings every single chapter. Like that's way too much. It's very condensed for a reason. And so I know where to end it in terms of what I feel comfortable with writing in a dinner scene. So the series that comes after this will be shorter. And I know how many books it's going to be as I plot the series, just because I need to know the characters' names. And maybe I don't know who they're going to marry off right away. Or maybe I just have like a placeholder because I haven't met them yet. But like if it's like a best friend's little sister, I know her and I'm going to like weave her in for a little while, or they've been married before and things like that. And like the Cage family series, people sort of think they know who's going to be with each other, and no one has gotten everyone right yet. And the Ashford Creek series, like only 1 book has released, and the second book comes out next month, and not a single person has guessed correctly. And it just makes me smile, because after this many books and how they think they know me so well, I've gotten them like, yes.
And I'm curious about the marketing of series like this, especially when they're interconnected. Like, is book 1 always what you're pushing people to? Or how would you go about now, for example, like this book 4? Are you trying to get people to start at the beginning, or are you doing both?
A mix of both, especially so because I also, like, outside of stores, like I have a direct store too. So I push bundles there, like one click, get them all. But it's pushing book 4 to people who've read the series. It's pushing like, I wrote this book so you can start with these two. Like, you didn't need to read Aston's book in order to understand this book. Like, yes, it's a spoiler that, he got an HEA with Blakely, but it's a romance. It's not a spoiler that they get an HEA, right? And so it's very contained. The last chapter of my books pushes the next book, as is evidenced by the end of this one, which was the hardest chapter I've ever written in my life. So Pretend It's Forever, I've already finished writing it, thankfully, because it was a very hard book. And that's the next book in the series. But you don't need to read book 4 in order to read book 5. You can start here and then work your way around. Like, that's how I purposely write my books. I don't know if you guys can hear my cat at all. She will dig through that door.
A little bit. The cat is like, I cannot believe I'm not there with
Her
you.
little paws are underneath.
Oh.
But the last time I let her in here during like an online thing, she turned off my computer. So, because she has 6 to 7 toes on each, so she has thumbs.
Oh, wow.
So she's locked outside and not happy. And those things do go in books.
Well, a little bit earlier, we touched on how indie publishing and the landscape of indie publishing has changed throughout your career, but romance as a genre has also changed, especially the public perception to romance as a genre. And like, it has really never been more mainstream or more popular. And so I'm curious about like what it is that you love about writing in this genre and how your relationship to romance has kind of changed throughout your career.
I think I'm far more protective of it now. It's, we are the largest genre in fiction. I know thrillers is right up there. And it's not just women for women. That's never been the case. There are men and non-binary people who have been writing romance and reading romance. And so, but no matter what, you see a cover and you see a title that may be a little flowy and it's like, oh, that's what you're reading. And it's still like that, even mainstream. We've changed the covers to the point that it can blend in with a thriller. It can blend in with fiction. And so no one can really tell what you're reading unless they've heard of it online. And we've made it so that way all the clickbait articles will call it a word that I don't use just to diminish it, even though it's bringing people joy. It's bringing people connection. And so I'm far more protected of it now than I was before because I knew they hated us. Right. I knew it was a derisive tone. I knew that, we could be making millions of dollars and it doesn't matter because it's just romance money and it's a bunch of housewives in their limited viewpoint. And there's still, TikToks out there of men and women going, well, when you go into the store, maybe pick something other than a romance, maybe actually start reading. And it's even mainstream. That's the words that you get. And it's, well, even in what I've been telling you about you in these titles is, yes, they have a connection, but, I've also been talking about murder and death and all the complicated emotions that come with being human. And a very complicated emotion that comes with being human is love. And it is not easy. And finding love through persistence in life just doesn't happen to everybody. And a lot of the relationships out there that they think is love isn't, but you're still striving for it. And so it is not easy. And the idea that it's so derisive because of who they think is reading it, that has always been like a thorn in my paw. So even now I'm far more protective of it because yes, it's mainstream, but at what cost? Like what have we forced ourselves to strip out of it to make it more palatable?
I do like that romance is a genre where readers can escape. Like you are giving people that opportunity to, switch off for a couple of hours and go into this place where they know they're going to have that happily ever after, right? That's like the mainstay of everything. But just in talking to a lot of romance authors lately, I've been hearing that, it can be really difficult if you're not in a very positive place yourself, because romance is such a like an uplifting genre. So you sort of have to be happy to write a romance. And I'm just wondering if you have any advice for authors that are kind of struggling with writing a happily ever after.
So I'm not happy when I'm writing. Like, I'm not a necessarily happy person. I try, but I'm not. And the 2 days after my husband's funeral, I had to write because I was the sole provider and I needed to write romance and believe in HEAs. Like, come on, those don't happen. They literally, like, fate literally killed him off. Like, hello, that was supposed to be my HEA. And so when I'm writing, it's not what I'm feeling. It's what I hope to feel, or maybe that is the fantasy. Right? Even if I know it exists because I see my parents and I see my friends that are still happily married and in love, or happily together and in love. And like, I know it exists out there, but maybe it's pushing towards the fantasy of it. And it's pushing the deeper emotions into fighting for it. So everyone says, a lot of my friends say like the 25K, or like, the 30% of the book is like when it starts to, like when an author stops and they really like, okay, now this is the hard part. And to me, that makes sense because you've gotten your meet cute, you've gotten your introduction. You haven't hit the suspense part or the dark moment yet. They're not in love. And now you have to prove that that love can exist. And that's the hard part in life. And that's going to be the hard part in the book. And so even if, like, right now it's really hard to find joy, if there is any out there. So just figuring out those emotions and that connection is the hard part in real life. And so I feel like sitting down and forcing it to come out on paper is the fiction. And so maybe it doesn't feel as real and reliable on the first draft, but that's what the second draft is for, and the third draft. And so I'm not necessarily saying push through, but maybe think of the why these characters were together. Because even if you don't believe it exists anymore, maybe they do.
I love that. And it also sounds that like a lot of readers will use romance as an escape from the everything in the world at the moment. But it sounds like from a writing perspective, like writing into the joy and finding joy through writing is almost like your escape, where like your readers are finding it in the finished work, you're finding it through the process.
Like the chapters I'm about to write aren't fun. I'm going to be crying later and it's not going to be nice, but digging through that will be helpful for me and hopefully for a reader who needs that. Or if the reader just needs some joy, that's the chapter that they skim to get to the good stuff, but like hopefully not. Yeah. So it's each of the complicated emotions that it takes to be human. And I want my characters to live through those too, and not just the happy joy times.
Imagine if all of the people who dismiss romance understood the amount of actual human emotion and like emotional journey that characters go through in these novels to be happy at the end. But like you said, like life isn't perfect and characters in romance don't have perfect lives. And just imagine if somebody would give romance a chance.
Yes, like I do read other genres. In fact, I finished reading another genre last night. And but the conventions is like I knew they were going to catch the bad guy because that's the convention of it, right? And it didn't spoil it for me. I mean, I didn't feel great at the end of it because everybody hated each other and they all walked away from each other and it just left a bad taste in your mouth. But it did end the book the way it needed to. Right. And so that just means that book wasn't for me. I don't hate the entire genre for it.
Well, you also talk a bit about the importance of finding time to like listen to your health. And I guess whether this is like your physical or your mental health as well is kind of what we've been discussing. Mm-hmm. I'm just wondering, like, what advice would you give to other authors who are kind of struggling to balance the pressures of indie publishing with their personal health needs?
So there is so much to do when it comes to, like, you're an author, but you're a business person, you're a publisher, you're a manager. I used to not have a team. Like I would just have editors that I would hire and things. But now I have an actual team that I ask for help for things and I assign them duties, but I have to organize that, right? And so I would say it's okay to have a day where you're not writing. It's okay to have a day where you're organizing things, but it's also okay to set that aside and write. Because I think a lot of people are like, I didn't have time to write today. I was so busy dealing with these 14 different to-do list things that spread into 30 things. And one of my best friends and I, like, we talk daily, And she's like, oh, I have to do this. I have to do this. I'm like, no, you're not. We're going to set up my little timer that I have here. And we're going to do a sprint, even though neither one of us actually sprints because of the way that we work together. But I'm like, and we're going to sit and we're going to focus on just writing, because all of the noise of being in this business adds up over time. And so it's okay to I have an online to-do list, and I literally have, every time something comes up that I need to do, I write it down, and then I'll put it in the big planner later of where it needs to go in order to be done. But there are so many things that are important that need to be done right then. And I do my best to be the person that replies first and gets things done. And then it takes everyone else 10 days to get to me. And it's like, why am I stressing so hard? Right? Maybe it's okay to write and then take till the afternoon to reply back to everybody.
Kind of alluded to this, but like in self-publishing, there is a lot of noise. There is a lot of like, you need to do X, Y, and Z in order to be successful. How do you figure out what works best for you? Because nobody can do everything.
No, there's a few things where I'll put it on my dream list of things that, like, once I find my footing, maybe I'll do this. And those things sometimes never get done, or sometimes I'm now doing them, right? Because financially I can, or, right? It's a lot of trial and error, and you have to be willing to spend for that trial and error. And that's scary, and it doesn't always work out. And so I don't take the big risks sometimes that a lot of people do. Like here, I'm talking with Kobo. I am a wide author. I have always released my new books into wide, and all 158 is what I'm at. But 158 books are wide on all platforms. And so teaching myself how to upload to all these places and promote all these places takes time, but I don't have to be perfect at the gate. And that's the luxury, that's the privilege that I have of having my backlist, right? But it's really scary what if I took all of those books and put them on just one platform and it fails? And I've done data and I've tried little bits and everything, but that's just not me. I want to just stick with what I hate the phrase stick with what I know, but maybe it's okay to stick with what I know for now and just keep working at it, because readers are here and readers are other places. And it's okay not to have 18 covers for each book if that stresses you out. But if that's something that you like to do and something that you can do, then go for it.
Well, I've had the pleasure of meeting you in person several times, and I know that we have bonded over both watching the show Criminal Minds. So I know that you're like a fan of shows like that. And I'm just curious if you've ever thought about, because this book has a lot of, there's darker, heavier themes, even though it is still within a romance. Have you ever thought about writing anything outside of romance that's a straight like thriller?
Most of my books have a little suspense in them, right? And I haven't, because I don't know the genre as well, and I wouldn't know how to promote it. I do have a pure women's fiction book almost written, and it's a standalone, and it's like it's not connected to anything. It wouldn't spin off to anything, and it's very weird. But it's more of my cathartic book. And I do have a sci-fi trilogy that I've been working on that's not romance. But like, I blame my father for that, because that's his favorite thing. And the movie we're going to go see this week is Hail Mary. So like we're going to leave the house and everything to go see a science movie. But Ryan Gosling's in it, so
you gotta go out for Ryan Gosling.
Yes. Your favorite Canadian, right?
Isn't he from where you're from, Rachel?
London, Ontario, represent.
I love that you knew that. I was like, is he from Canada? And you're like, he is.
Yeah, born in the same hospital as me. We go way back.
Yeah, I was born in a hospital in Germany, so I don't know anyone over there. So.
But that's cool. I'm excited to see what you'll do if you're moving outside of just experimenting with these different things. And I don't believe that you don't know how to promote it. Carrie Ann, you have like 158 books. Of course you know how to promote these things.
Yeah, and I don't think it would be under my name if I did it either.
That was going to be my question. Yeah, would you?
Because I can do other genres as long as I keep the heat level, right? That's my thing. Like, as long as you're going to get a Carrie Ann Ryan book because there's going to be a family or a found family. There's going to be some form of food. There's going to be humor, a lot of loss, a lot of drama, a lot of heat, right? Like, those are the big things you're going to get. And like, if the guy happens to have 6 brothers who need happy ever afters, I got you. But but anything else outside that, I don't think is what. And we say the word brand, but I don't think it's the promise that the reader is going to get when they think of my books. And I don't think they're good yet. I think I'm still learning. I'm like 15 years ago, me trying to figure this stuff out. And at this point, they're just more cathartic writing. But I don't know if they would ever come out. Like things I would never be able to write would be like historical, because I'm, military and Texas education. I had like 3 years of Texas history. So like any history that I've learned is reading books since and my dad's long diatribes. So I would not be good at historical romance, but other things maybe.
Does dabbling into science fiction kind of scratch that part of your brain that went to grad school for chemistry?
Yes. So you'll notice that a lot of especially in my paranormal romances, a lot of the heroines were scientists, because I loved figuring out the whys of magic. So like Dust of My Wings, she used to do exactly what I would do, which was like study different particles. And she found angel dust. I'm like, that's how the whole series started. Right. And so like that was the fun part for me. But like, it's been so long since I did any of that. Like all of my knowledge is 15 years old. And thankfully, science has moved past that.
One of my favorite things about working with authors is always learning how people came to becoming a writer, because no story is the same. Like, I love that was your background and how you use that in your books. It's so cool.
I still don't know why. If you would ask me why I picked those majors, I can't tell you. Like, it wasn't that because I was like all A's and everything. And I think it was in my head, oh, well, anybody can just write a fiction paper in an afternoon. Like I didn't realize that was something that was different. And so I just moved away from English and all of that, because I was like, oh, well, this challenges me. So I'm going to do that, which isn't necessarily, but like I was like 14 when I picked all my majors. So like, you're not supposed to make life choices when you're that age.
I also have some friends who are high school teachers who can tell you that not everybody can write a fiction paper. Writing is also a skill.
Yeah, like I loved English class and I loved writing. We needed to write like a short fiction thing. And so like it started off with like, she wakes up because the glass is in her hair because she's got an accent. That's how I write. Like the professor like took me to the side. He's like, are you okay? I was like, I don't know. It's just how it came to my mind. Is that not what everyone doing? They're like, no, everyone else like talked about going to the grocery store. I vividly remember that. I dedicated a book to him, actually.
Do you think he ever knew?
Probably not. But he was also a very misogynistic, not nice person. But he did spark that creative part of my mind. He knows who he is if he happens to be on this podcast. But he was in film studies. Like that was his major thing. And so he was like, you should take these extra film classes. But I was doing 3 majors, so I didn't have space for it. So I should have.
Wow. I'm so impressed by you being able to juggle all of these things. It makes sense now as to why you have so many books and continue to be able to juggle all of the things that indie authors have to juggle. And it's been so lovely talking with you. And I'm just wondering, can you tell us what's coming up next? I know you have some travel. Is there signings where people can find you this year?
So I will be at the 4 Brits book signing. Oh my gosh, I can't remember. I always say it wrong, but it's a small town signing in London. I will be there in September. And I'm really excited about that because I was born in Europe, been to a bunch of places, and I've never been to London. I know. So I'll get there. And then we're heading to Dublin for family stuff because I've never been to Ireland either. So it's time. And then I have Indies Invade Philly in November, and tickets go on sale early April. And those tickets usually sell pretty quickly. But yeah, so I'm excited for both of those. I'm traveling a lot this year because it's my 40th birthday year, which is insane to me. So I'm doing like smaller things and a lot of research trips this year.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I'm a little envious. I convinced the Kobo Writing Life podcast to go on the road. But where can listeners find you online?
So you guys can find me everywhere, honestly. So my website is carrieannryan.com. We do our best to make it simple for that. And from there, you can find me on all social media. And then all of my books are pretty much on all platforms, including Kobo and Kobo Plus, which I love, and which I'm literally reading a book on Kobo Plus right now. And I had to pause it in order to do this, which means I was not writing like I should have been.
That's okay. We'll allow you to take a break. Well, thanks so much. It's been so lovely chatting with you as always.
Thanks for having me, you guys.
Thank you for listening to the Kobo Writing Life podcast. If you are interested in picking up Carrie Ann's books, we will include links in our show notes. And if you are enjoying this podcast, please be sure to rate, review, and subscribe. And if you're looking for more tips on growing your self-publishing business, you can find us on socials. We are at Kobo Writing Life on Facebook, Blue Sky, Instagram, and Threads.
This episode was hosted by Rachel Wharton and Tara Kremen, with production by Terrence Abrahams. Editing is provided by Kelly Robotham, and our theme music is composed by Tearjerker. And thanks to Carrie Ann for being a guest and for her cats for making an entrance. If you're ready to start your publishing journey, sign up today at kobo.com/writinglife. Until next time, happy writing.